Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra Tutorials channel. I'm your host, Larry, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the more advanced settings and doing more of a complete walkthrough of all the different settings for Nvidia ShadowPlay, what they do still have and what they don't still have, because I got a lot of questions from the last video. So long story short, to get Nvidia ShadowPlay, you need to download and install the Nvidia app. It used to be called the GeForce Experience, and if you have an older graphics card that supports it, you might still be able to download the GeForce Experience if it doesn't let you install the Nvidia app. But you need to just Google the Nvidia app, and it'll take you right to the page that you're looking for. So to enable the ShadowPlay experience, you have to go down to the settings panel, and here at the top, you enable the Nvidia overlay. That is where all of the different settings happen for ShadowPlay. Pretty much none of it is available outside of there. So once you've got that toggled on, you can hit Control Z, and this lovely sidebar pops out, and it gives you some different options. You can record by hitting Alt F9, and one of the things that's kind of annoying is depending on which feature you're talking about, the settings are either controlled via this little side arrow that's just a line, not like this full one, this full triangle that's to play or start recording. And then the other half of them are controlled in the gear at the top of this little side panel. So just keep that in mind. If you're missing a setting, it might be up there. Now for recording, these settings are up here at the top. And you'll find that down here under your audio settings, your video capture, and your disk space. These other ones are kind of just basics, like you can change what your key bindings are if you're not sure what they are for a certain feature. They'll all be listed here if there is a key binding for it that you don't have to manually press. And then if you've modified this but you don't like whatever you modified, you want to reset it, you can click the Reset to Defaults button at the bottom of the screen. If I go back here, the heads-up display is information that's contained with like your frame rate, your GPU usage, and your CPU usage. I personally don't use this. I have tweaked the spacing, the vertical spacing, so that it shows up over here on my wallpaper a little bit better, so you can actually read it. But for the most part, I tend to leave that off. Although now that I've fiddled with the settings, it's now turned back on. And the notifications are, it'll give you a little pop-up when you've done something, saved a recording, started a recording, all that stuff. You can actually turn those off if you'd like, or you can turn them off individually. Down here under audio, this is where you can kind of control your system sound volume versus your microphone volume. So I can say when I'm recording, like my system volume is only at 50%, and then my mic volume is at 100%, in the effort to try to keep the system audio from overwhelming my microphone. That's less important if you set this to record in two separate tracks. Like if you have a single track, that's more important. But if you want to edit this, like in any editor, you want to separate the audio tracks. When I tested this before and imported the videos into Premiere Pro, the tracks were separate and editable, but I cannot guarantee that it will behave itself for everybody because it sounds like there's been some hiccups there. For video capture, I will tell you right now, I have not found a single option in this software to use your webcam. I do have a webcam plugged in, and I can use it with OBS right now. There's nothing else plugged in for like a video device, and it still won't. There's no option anywhere for webcam. So I can basically confirm that that function and feature has more or less been removed. So in here, you can enable the ability to record your desktop like I'm doing right now. Otherwise, it defaults to only wanting to make recording available if you're in a game and it detects that DirectX is kicking off and doing its thing, or some other type of video game rendering tool is currently operating, like OpenGL and stuff like that. So you can change things like you can have instant replays constantly working in the background, where it's constantly recording a loop of the last 20 minutes. So you can just press the hotkey and it'll save the last 5 minutes of gameplay. So if there's like a cool clip you wanted to save, but you don't want to record like an hour to find it, that's what you can do. You can set this down to as low as 15 seconds or as high as the whole 20-minute replay queue. I don't really use that, so I'd probably just like leave that around 5. Maybe make that exactly 5. Down here for the output format, that is the output for your overall video quality. This has some presets. You can go like medium, low, high. The only thing that really changes between these is the bitrate down here, which is really high. Like, it's higher than I would record for most of my videos, even when I'm doing like 4K. Just to put this into perspective, your typical like YouTube video that's like 30 FPS is like 8 megabits per second. And then I think for like 60 FPS, they want you at around like 20 to maybe 28. But this one starts you off like all the way at 90 and it goes all the way up to like 187. And that's a lot for digital. So you're definitely going to capture everything on its default high quality setting. However, it's also going to eat a lot of space. I think most of my videos, even when I'm recording like big stuff, end up being like around 38 megabits per second. And I let OBS have its own dynamic bandwidth to record as much space as it needs. And it generally doesn't go beyond like 48 megabits per second. So it's interesting that it goes that high. The resolution, you can set it to like 360p, 480p, 720. And I guess this is based on what your resolution is, it looks like. The suggested bitrate. So the higher it goes, the more it wants. And it's just assuming that if I want the full in-game resolution, that's going to go up to 8K. Because it's basically giving me 8K bitrate right now. Anyway, so it goes up to like, you can go from regular 1080p, 1440p, 4K, 8K, and even higher. So in the theory, this could do some cool stuff. It's just, it lacks the fine-tuned controls to make that meaningful, which is unfortunate. And it looks like the only way you're going to get 60 FPS above 4K is if you use the in-game resolution. But my recommendation for you would probably be just use like 1080p or like 1440p or not above the 4K because that's kind of overkill. And then leave your frame rate at 60. Further than that, like this is when you start going into like cool slow motion effects, but it's kind of pointless unless you want to do that. So 60 FPS will be fine. Yeah, it's not crazy, but it's not terrible. I've seen worse editors and recorders that have less settings than this. So files and disk space. So this tells it where to place your temporary files. Temporary files will be that constant looping stuff in the background of 20 minutes if you have that enabled. And then your gallery will be wherever you want to save your finished exported video. If you want, you can limit how much space this stuff uses, and you can set it to be, as low as like a few gigs all the way up to 2 terabytes or just under 2 terabytes. If you're concerned about space, this is a must. A lot of recorders don't do this because they're just kind of assuming that if you want to be recording video, you're going to pay attention to the space that's going to be related to like every minute of video you record and have extra available to you if you need it. And that's basically all you get for like fine-tuned video and audio controls in this app. It's not a lot and it's not great. And then you can record. There is no webcam. I'm sorry. If you want a webcam, you're going to have to investigate something like OBS, which is, fancy enough, free. And it also uses the built-in Nvidia codec to record stuff, so it's smooth and doesn't cause any lag. I know because I'm using it right now to record this video. So the instant replay is right here. That's what I was just talking about. You can enable this so it's constantly looping in the background. And it'll even pop up and tell you, hey, you're doing the instant replay. And then if you click this configure, it'll just take you back to this video capture stuff that you were seeing before. But to change these settings, you weirdly have to turn it off to change the replay length, even though they put the button right here. So whatever. This, again, if you use the instant replay and you hit Alt-Shift F10, it'll save the last 5 minutes or however long a clip you set your settings to. Screenshots are screenshots. I feel like that's pretty simple and straightforward. Admittedly, if you want an easy-to-use screenshot tool, this comes with Nvidia's stuff. It's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible if you don't want to use something like Yazo. Photo mode, funny enough, there's actually some interesting photo stuff that you can play around with for like between this mode and there's also another one, the game filter down here. This is basically like having a reshade application built in to Nvidia. The problem is I don't know what games are it's compatible with. I've not tried to use it all that much because I frankly don't care. If I was going to do any of this, I would do it in Photoshop or I would do it in Premiere or After Effects, which are, you know, as good as, if not better than some of these tools. But it would allow you to adjust colors and contrasts and add filters and effects to your gameplay like you're using the application Reshade built into ShadowPlay. Although, unfortunately, it's got a limit to what games it's compatible with, whereas Reshade, you can install that on anything that runs on a computer and is a game. So I would probably just use Reshade, admittedly. So highlights. This is a system that automatically captures moments that it determines are important. This will let it automatically catch screenshots of stuff it thinks is like a cool moment or like a funny death. I am not really entirely certain how it determines what to capture, other than there is some inherent logic in the background, like when you use other programs that do something similar, to detect if like you've died in Helldivers and to take a clip of the last 3 minutes because there's something might be going on that's funny. But I don't really want to have that enabled, wasting space in the background, so I'm going to turn that off. So the other thing down here too is you can change your microphone settings. I don't know why this isn't just like up here in the other settings, but you can set your microphone to like always be on or to push to talk so they don't hear you coughing and breathing and have to edit it later. Or if you want to be a silent film star, you can turn it off altogether in your recordings. I would just leave mine always on, and there you have it. Your statistics, that stuff that I was talking about up here in the corner of the screen is available here. You can get really fine-tuned with it. It's got some advanced stuff that talks about like what your current GPU clock is at, what the voltage is at. There's a bunch of other nonsense that you can turn on or off, fan speed, all that jazz. But this stuff will appear in your video recording if you use ShadowPlay. This stuff at the top isn't hidden. So like, I don't know if you want to share this with people. I don't personally care, nor would I want to see this in your video if you had it up on the screen. But maybe like speedrunners or like people trying to demo the current stats of their computer for like a Linus Tech Tips style video. Maybe that would be important for them. But for your average gamer, sharing this info, unless you've got a super expensive rig, it's nothing that's going to really change anything or be that important. Down here, you can do statistics logging, and you can log like information about performance in the game, and you can change where that stuff is located, and you can also do a latency analysis. I feel like there's better tools for both of those things to determine if there's something wrong with your computer or your network or something's causing lag on your system. But if you want to play with that, it's right there. You can also customize this and like turn on or off what features you actually want to have displayed. And there's a lot. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do to like do diagnostics on the go. But again, this whole program is meant to like record stuff, so why? So I would probably just like leave this basic or just leave it turned off entirely. And again, you can change the location and like the font size and all of that stuff and where certain things pop up. Like you can have little indicators that show you if you're currently recording or whatever, but keep in mind all of this stuff is going to get recorded while you're using ShadowPlay to record. I would just turn that off, or again, I would probably recommend just getting a better recorder entirely. So with that in mind, I've got my basic recording stuff settings the way that I want it. We can probably go demo this now. So I want to mention before I jump into a game and record and run around and be like, woo, that make sure you turn on your overlay before you boot the game that you want to play and record. Because if you turn this on when the game is running, it might cause the game to crash. I know because I've crashed like 3 games forgetting that fact. So just keep that in mind. And you can enable the filters, I guess, right here when you launch a game. So maybe that's available in Helldivers. If it is, we can fart around with it. Okay, so as I'm like loading into Helldivers, it's reminding me in the upper corner that I have ShadowPlay turned on, so I hit Alt-Z. And I turned on the game filter mode, and it looks like Helldivers does have the game filter stuff enabled. So I can do things like add dynamic vibrance, depth of field effects, cool colors, a colorblind filter. So depending on what kind of color blindness I may or may not have, I can change that to these different types. So that is actually kind of handy. It's also available in things like Reshade, but it's nice to see that there is actually some accessibility to be had in this tool, not just make stuff look ridiculous. Special effects? What kind of special effects do we have? We can make it look retro, which is just really contrasty and zoomed in. I can store. Ooh, I can make it look like a sketchbook or a halftone. And that's actually not super laggy. I'm actually kind of impressed. I don't know if that would be the same in my actual game, if that would stay like low latency, but for right now, it's kind of neat. And you can save multiple profiles here at the top if you want to make like collections of weird stuff. There's a night mode. What does night mode do? So yeah, these are just like filters and stuff that you could use. They're kind of like based off of like photo filters. So it's there if you want it. But the main thing that we want to do is we want to record. To record, I can either press this button or I can hit Alt F9. So Alt F9. And there it pops up that it's recording. And I can be like, wee, I'm a cool streamer guy. Oh my god. We're gonna go save the universe from the Illuminate who are attacking this planet right now. And actually, I didn't even look out this window earlier to see they got these cool little squid ships. Okay, that's kind of neat. Anyway, we were like a cool streamer people. Aren't we fancy, chat? It hurts my soul just to say that, to call my lovely audience chat. You're so much more. You're educational pals. That's the word we're going to go with. And then I can hit Alt F9 again to stop it. And now it's saved, so I can go into my gallery, which now pops open to be like, look, you got a video. It's 40 seconds long. And I can watch it back, and we can listen to it together and cringe. Although, I'm only hearing the audio from the game, so that means that if it is capturing my voice, it's in another audio track, which won't get heard until they're mixed back into a single track. But it does record this in an MP4 format, which is the most accessible format for you to import into literally any like video editor known to man will accept MP4. If it doesn't, uninstall it and burn it because it's garbage. So yeah, that's recording. Now let's go ahead and open this up in my Premiere Pro and let's see if we can see what that sounds like, what my voice sounds like, if it's working nicely. Okay, so I guess it said it's under videos. I don't even remember the last time I went in here. Under Nvidia, Helldivers 2. So we'll just bring you into here. So yeah, it looks like these two audio tracks were recorded separately. Although I can barely see anything going on here. and there it pops up that it's recording, and I can be like, "Wee, I'm a cool streamer guy. Oh my god, we're gonna go save the universe from the Illuminate who are attacking this planet." So yeah, my voice sounds fine, and it saved it in 2 separate tracks. This is the game audio, which I can barely see. There it is. There's the game audio waveform, and then you can see my voice. So all that lovely stuff is in there, and I can edit it now if I want. So that's cool. You can still do a lot better and have a lot more controls with something like OBS, because here's OBS, right? And I can literally go into my settings, and they look at all these different controls I have as comparison for like output settings and audio settings and switching between them. And then here in the main window, I can literally activate a video capture device to turn on my webcam at any point if I want. So it's like, yeah, is it a little bit more complicated? Sure. Does it take more time to learn? Sure. But if you're going to actually want to make something that's nice and use it more than once, OBS is your way to go. So anyway, that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a more in-depth look at Nvidia ShadowPlay. I hope you found this helpful. It's there. It's good for a quick video, but it doesn't stream anymore. It doesn't have a webcam controls anymore. It's like got half of its features have been gutted or removed. They added features that I don't really think anyone asked for. But it's got some fun ones. So you can add filters with like the game filters and the photo mode. So maybe if you're into that, you can play with those. So that'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a more in-depth look at Nvidia ShadowPlay. I've been your host, Larry. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody, and have a good one.